In this clip, I will work with an instantiated form object, obtaining its available properties. The form object properties, or any object properties for that matter, can be obtained through one of these three methods. First off, I will access the property directly, then use a getter method, and from within the class scope using the special variable $this. Obtaining an object property directly from an existing instance is done using the --> syntax. The syntax to access the name property of the created form instance is shown here, assigning the form's name property to a local $name variable. The --> is used to obtain the internal name property found encapsulated inside the form object. The name property is not removed from the object by doing this, as it remains a member of the form object. We just duplicated its value in the local $name variable. Here in my IDE, I have split the screen showing the form class on the left with the methods folded, so I only have to look at the code I'm interested in. I have made a minor change to the name property by adding a default value of login. On the right is the index.php file where I will first load the class, instantiate a form object, and access the name value in the local name variable. I can echo the name property, which outputs login from the local variable, or I can echo the name property using object syntax. Let's run the code and see the result. Here I have the same value from both use cases. I can also access an object property from a getter method. When I built the form class in the left panel, I added a getName method. It's called a getter method because it takes action. It's a best practice to prefix a getter method with the verb get, then a descriptive name for the method. That way the method name is intuitive. You might be asking, why do I need a getter method when I could just as easily access the property directly? To answer depends on the visibility setting for a particular property. It will, based on the visibility setting, be necessary to use a getter method because accessing it otherwise would not be possible. For the public visibility here, I could access the property using either technique. I'll discuss more on visibilities in a later module. Running the code, we see the name property value returned from the getName method. I can also access the object property internally within the class method referring to the $this special variable. Looking closely at the left IDE panel, the getName method returns the name property via a reference to $this. $this is used when working with objects and is assigned automatically the value of the current object. When used like this, one could read the return line as return the name property from the current form object. $this is an abstraction to the current object and is an important concept to understand. $this will always refer to the current object instance, no matter how many objects are instantiated from the form class. In our case here, our object is named the same as the class, form, but we could have instantiated a login form object, set its name property to login, and a registration form object, set its name property to registration, both from the same form class. And the this variable would refer to each distinct object when within the scope of the class, thereby returning the correct name value for each. If this is hard to conceptualize at this point, that's okay. I'm not concerned, as it will become much more clear as we move forward. Okay, let's summarize. Obtaining an object property is typically done by one of three methods: through direct access, using a getter method, and referencing an internal property using $this. Next up, changing objects